Oh, 2023! Don't you dare be sour! Clap for the new year 2024 and feel the power! I miss Big E. I hope Big E returns this year. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Money Mike, and today on the channel, we're going to be previewing WWE Day 1 tonight, which is basically a sold-out show. If you look at this tweet here by WrestleTix, there's only one seat left, and that is continuing WWE's dominance over setting records and record attendance all through 2023, and I'm sure that will continue going into 2024, and well, that all starts tonight with WWE Raw Day 1 edition. But SmackDown this Friday, New Year's Revolution, a big week in WWE to kick off the new year, and I gotta say, I think WWE has a chance to really throw us a swerve, bro, because they could shake things up. Heading into the road to WrestleMania 40 tonight. And before I get into how they can do that, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button right now, as there will be more wrestling content on this channel as I look to grow the channel and talk more wrestling as the year progresses, as we go through, heading into WrestleMania 40. I'll have some stuff about AEW, which hopefully I will talk about how AEW can have a rebound year in 2024, and so forth. So hit that like and subscribe button today so you don't miss another video. So let's get into Day 1 tonight. Live from San Diego. There's only one seat left, folks, so whoever wants it, grab it now. So as I pull this up on my phone, I pull up the match card. Obviously, the big match. Seth Rollins defends the World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre. Now, I do think a lot of us fans have pretty much said, hey, WrestleMania 40, Cody versus Roman, Seth versus CM Punk, those are your two world title matches. And I think WWE has a chance here tonight to do something that could shake that up and kind of go a different direction. And it starts with a Damian Priest Money in the Bank cash-in. Now, am I saying Damian Priest is going to hold on to the world title all the way to WrestleMania? No, probably not. But I think if you want to really shake things up and go into a different direction, you could have Damian Priest cash in tonight during the match, or, maybe he cashes in after Seth wins. And we wonder, okay, maybe we will get a rematch where Seth eventually gets the title back, and then we get the progression of Seth and CM Punk. But there's that part of me that thinks they've been building this up with Drew McIntyre pretty much hating everybody on the Raw roster, that makes me wonder about Drew McIntyre actually winning the World Heavyweight Championship tonight. Now, you could have Damian cash in. I still think they should do the cash in because you're not going to have the cash in happen on Cody or Roman before or after WrestleMania, and you're not going to have the cash in happen on CM Punk. the era of Triple H has brought us long title reigns. And, well, as we know, in kayfabe, that Money in the Bank briefcase has a 1-year expiration date. So would Damian cash in? And I think you do it tonight at day one. You get rid of the briefcase. WWE can start planning, hey, who can win the briefcase in 2024? They can start going through all of that. And while getting rid of the briefcase, kind of similar to what they did a couple years ago with Miz cashing in on Drew McIntyre. Now, it could be very similar to that, where maybe after Seth beats Drew gets angry that he couldn't get the job done, and while he continues to not blame himself, like Seth Rollins has said, that he's doesn't blame any, he continues to blame everybody else, he attacks Seth to set up a Damian Priest cash-in where Damian would then cash in on Seth Rollins to become the World Heavyweight Champion, with there being some kind of guarantee that Drew gets the first title shot or something. Similar to that effect with Miz and Bobby Lashley. Or you could have Drew or have Damian cash in mid-match, and then Drew McIntyre uses that as an advantage, distracted by Damian, then Claymore kick, Drew wins a championship. Then we get to the Royal Rumble where everything changes because could it be CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes? CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. You could do CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Obviously, they're not, but there's also that twist where you could have the winner go after Drew McIntyre, where maybe you do a triple threat at the Royal Rumble where Drew still wins, and then Drew's a world champion going into WrestleMania 40, and he's potentially, which again, this would change the complexion of the Royal Rumble, because while I think the winner of the Rumble will challenge the World Heavyweight Champion, it's one of those things where CM Punk and Seth Rollins, it doesn't need a championship. It reminds me so much of of Seth Rollins and versus Edge, where there was just this personal rivalry between the two. And you could see kind of where it's like, well, it doesn't really need a championship. The feud sells itself. So you could, so to speak, have Seth and Punk be a non-title match. And while you have, say, Drew McIntyre, who's been feuding with Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, all these people that on Raw, Drew McIntyre can face them and say maybe Sami Zayn beats Drew McIntyre. Maybe Sami Zayn wins a Royal Rumble. And you have that history there, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso. He wins the Royal Rumble. Maybe he could challenge Roman again. Maybe he goes and challenges Drew. You have history there where you could play it up, leading into whenever the final decision comes of when the winner of the Rumble would choose which championship he's going for. But you could easily just play into the history with Jey and Sami and Roman, and then you go, well, they're going to choose Drew, and then you could have Sami or Jey beat Drew McIntyre and become World Heavyweight Champion. At some, even if not the Royal Rumble, but not even if one of them wins the Rumble, but just having one of them eventually be the one that beats Drew McIntyre could be a really, really good selling point for the summer. So again, I think WWE has a chance to really shake things up, to go from predictable to making the Rumble a little bit more unpredictable if you have Drew McIntyre as a World Heavyweight Champion instead of Seth Rollins, where, maybe Seth is trying to get the world title back, and maybe he does get it back at the Elimination Chamber or something, and then you could still do Seth and CM Punk that way. But I think WWE has a chance to really change things up, to really set the stage for WrestleMania. Whatever happens this week on Raw and what happens on SmackDown, it is going to set the stage for WrestleMania season. Now, the rest of WWE Day 1. Let's see here. I mean, that's the big match, but, there's some other good matches here. Rhea Ripley versus Ivy Nile. We've seen the Creed brothers face off against Judgment Day for the tag team titles, and I hope that the tag team titles this year gets ununified and we get new tag titles for each brand, because at this point there's so many tag teams that really we need two titles again. Each brand needs a tag title for their show. Rhea Ripley, Ivy Nile. I'm glad that WWE is finally giving Rhea Ripley some storylines, because it seemed like for a while she was kind of like Roman Reigns, where she would just kind of be there, but she wasn't really feuding with anybody. So it just seemed like they were just kind of like in a waiting period, like almost like, well, we're waiting for whoever her big feud is for WrestleMania. Like, that's what it felt like. So I'm glad to see that WWE is giving Rhea Ripley a match with a story, and hopefully that will continue. Obviously, Elimination Chamber being in Australia, her home country. I mean, you gotta have Rhea Ripley main event the show, right? Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Championship in the main event in the Elimination Chamber. I mean, that seems pretty cut and dry, right? I talk about Seth Rollins, CM Punk being a grudge match or a grudge feud. Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, a lot of bad blood there. Obviously, we all know the history. Nia Jax inadvertently broke Becky Lynch's nose, took her out of Survivor Series. She had that awesome, cool moment that I'm going to put up here on the screen with her bloody nose, and she became the man. She main evented WrestleMania, and her whole career took off. Nia Jax bloodying her nose or breaking her nose by accident was Becky's kind of like Austin 316 moment. So now WWE is giving us the conclusion to this storyline, because Becky Lynch has been in NXT last year. That was a title she's never won. She went back and won it. Now she's back on Raw, and it's just kind of like, again, like Rhea Ripley. Becky was kind of like in a holding pattern, like there wasn't really a whole lot for her to do. She was on Raw, but then she showed up on SmackDown to be a part of War Games. So it just feels like now Becky's finally got some kind of direction storyline wise. She battles Nia Jax, and I expect Becky to come out on top of this. It's Royal Rumble season, and I imagine that Becky is going to be one of the favorites to win the Women's Royal Rumble this year. Also on the card, we will determine the new number one contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships, as Tegan Nox and Natalya will take on Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. And, I gotta say this. I really, really hope the women's tag titles, I hope WWE starts building that division up. I don't want to get into any spoilers or surprises. I will get into that more when I talk about the Women's Royal Rumble, which I will be doing a video on the Women's Royal Rumble uh, later on this week, probably Thursday, maybe Friday morning. The video will be up on the channel as I will discuss who I think will win the Women's Royal Rumble. And again, I was going to do two videos, one on the men's, one on the women's. But again, I feel like the men's Rumble is pretty clear cut and dry on who's going to win. As where the women's is kind of complicated. And Charlotte Flair being injured complicates it a little bit more. So make sure you check it out Thursday or Friday this week. I will have a video discussing who I think should win the Women's Royal Rumble and how the booking and what matches could take place for the women at WrestleMania. But I really do hope the women's tag titles starts to kind of be more important. We know that Triple H is in charge of creative completely. I hope that the women's tag titles are treated as more important as the men's tag titles. Like, to me, when WWE brought these tag titles in, they had Bayley and Sasha win them and to be the inaugural champions, and it was, it felt like okay, they're actually going to make these seem important, and then they kind of weren't a priority creative wise. So hopefully this means maybe we can get a little bit more storytelling with the women's tag titles going forward in 2024 and beyond. Comment below, what do you think? Will Seth Rollins beat Drew McIntyre and retain the World Heavyweight Championship? Is Drew McIntyre going to walk away the new World Heavyweight Champion? Do you agree with me that Damian Priest should cash in that briefcase? Or, also, before we go, I want to talk about this real quick. What former WWE champion, and again, the rumor mill doesn't specify which title, it just says former WWE champion. So it could be easy, so we could all be sitting here speculating, ooh, a former WWE champion, means like a world champion, but then it could be like an Intercontinental champion, it could be a former women's champion. Apparently, this was somebody that's not signed with the company. But let's just say someone that wrestled at AEW World's End might make an appearance on Raw tonight. And I'll talk about the other big money rumor in the Women's Royal Rumble video. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you want more wrestling content. I've been your host, Money Mike. And Happy New Year, everybody. And I'll see y'all on Friday with my predictions for the Women's Royal Rumble.